What? Do what? Let the dogs out. Like, ooh, let the dogs out. Ooh, ooh.
Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Good morning to you and yours. It is a Monday and somewhat of a holiday week Monday, kind of, sort of. Guys, do you like it when the holiday falls on a Saturday or Sunday? I do not.
No, I hate it.
I didn't mind Saturday, but as a kid growing up, I hated going to church. So I hated when it fell on a Sunday because, how can I enjoy Christmas when I have to go to church? Sorry, I'm going to hell. I know, but
Oh my goodness.
Caleb's heretic ways shine through on this December the 19th. So a big week for me is it was a big wedding anniversary, wife's birthday, mom's birthday. So I was out of town. Thanks for filling in. Fantastic job as always. And you guys had more than I wanted you to have to talk about with the passing of Leach. So I'll just say my 2 cents worth on that. A guy that I definitely will regret not being able to interview from a personal perspective. A guy that, and I listened to a lot when I was in Miami, just of his clips. And I think a couple or three kind of rise to the top, the Fat Little Girlfriends and stuff like that, of ones that we find most memorable. But there was one day we were driving around trying to find a casino, and we must have listened to an hour and a half solid. He was that good. So his content had depth. It not just had a couple of bright spots here and there, like Derek Dooley, maybe, where you say he's clever. And it was just all it was so non-coach like. I definitely can say from a personal perspective, that's a guy that I hate to lose. And Caleb is, as you pointed out in your column about Josh Heupel, here is a guy that he really influenced the direction that football was taken at the NFL level, even. And just a lot of kudos for him and prayers to his family. It was certainly a tough week. I was told by one person that he had a massive heart attack and he knew he had a valve issue. And just like he would anything else, he would dive deep into something. Maybe it's football, maybe it's not, maybe it's Pirates. But he dove deep in the different kinds of valve replacements that you could get because he wanted to know the exact type of valve replacement that had the highest success rate. And apparently it didn't get to that point where they replaced that valve, but that's just the type of guy he was. He would get obsessed with something, and that was obviously very important, but he'd get obsessed with things that weren't incredibly important. And that's kind of what made him really neat and really special. So, and a lot of news too from last week. I want to get to Jalen Hyatt deciding that he's going to go to the NFL, and also Cedric Tillman, which I don't think was a surprise. Good morning, Amanda LaFratta. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dave. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning, Caleb. Please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, do so. We've got a big show on tap. Chris Landry will join us. And I'll start with you, Amanda. How will Mike Leach be remembered? I don't think he'll be remembered as an elite X's and O's coach because he didn't have the success, the championships. But I think he'll be remembered by people that know football as one that changed the course of the game.
I mean, if not that, he's going to be remembered as the best interview ever. I mean, the best person to ever interview, the one that's closest to the people, that cares about the people. And it's what you see is what you got with Mike Leach. And I really, really just, again, the only time I've ever fangirled, it was, at Mike Leach at SEC Media Days, and I couldn't move. I couldn't go talk to him because I love Mike Leach so much. But I mean, he'll be remembered as one of the the best to ever give an interview. I mean, honestly.
Nah, he's pretty special. Now, let's go back 2 coaching cycles, because we're not going to directly compare Josh Heupel. We're not going to directly compare Mike Leach, because they would have been in the churn at different times. But can you imagine where Tennessee would be right now, Caleb, if they'd hired Mike Leach instead of Jeremy Pruitt in that initial cycle? What are your thoughts?
Or we could actually even go back further, because 2008, I think you even told me that. But I don't know, because I think that we talked to Landry last week, and he was talking about that, the air raid has really expanded and evolved over time, and different coaches like Lincoln Riley and Josh Heupel have used great elements of it. He said Leach's weakness kind of was he's so stubbornly stuck to the system that he installed, no matter what. And it brought the best at smaller schools like Washington State, Texas Tech. I think what he would have done at Tennessee would have been relatively what he did at Washington State, Texas Tech. I think the thing with the way he ran the air raid was the floor was really, really high and the ceiling was a little bit lower than it should be, if that makes sense. And so I think at Tennessee we'd be seeing him put together 8-9 win seasons, and an 11-2 season here and there, in the playoff run here and there, may get in a couple of times. That's where I think Tennessee would have been if he were there.
Now, if you want to compare the two, I think that Tennessee is better off with Josh Heupel, but you also would have avoided that whole 4-year disaster that was Jeremy Pruitt.
Oh, significantly better than those years. Yeah.
So you would put yourself, I think Tennessee, if Mike Leach had been hired before Jeremy Pruitt, and by the way, told Philip Fulmer really did not like Mike Leach for whatever reason. I never got to the bottom of that, but and that was,
I like us. Mike Leach was a good guy.
Whatever. If that's the case, it could be. But Leach, if he had any shot at the job, that was nixed at the end by Fulmer. I think what you'd be looking at right now in 2022, heading into 2023, and please hit that like button. It helps us show up to more people. Good morning, Smoky Mountain Red. I think what you would be looking at is a fan base that's kind of in the middle, and an administration that loves the guy they have in Mike Leach, but kind of wants to see if they can make an upgrade. And that can be a tough position to be in, especially when your coach is so likable. But boy, you can't imagine 2 different guys, offensive minded, defensive minded, outgoing, not outgoing, than Jeremy Pruitt in that hire. I can't come up with more differences between them. I can't come up with a single similarity between them, Caleb, other than the fact that they both were coaches in the SEC.
Yeah, and we know Fulmer made that hire for a couple of reasons. One, he wanted his own puppet to where any success Pruitt had was going to be his success, and Mike Leach wouldn't necessarily be that, because Tennessee was already talking to Mike Leach before Fulmer came as AD. But you're right. And then on top of that, I don't think Fulmer believed in. He's never been a fan of, I guess, ahead of the curve style offenses. And he said as much in his press conference, by the way. When Pruitt was hired, Fulmer said, I think at one point he's like, it's hard to be cute and win in this league. And I'm like, well, that to me, that was a low blow at Leach. Like the idea that it was just cute to win. It's like, no, you still, you can still have players and run the air raid effectively. And
I'll say this too, Caleb, not to interrupt. Those Kentucky teams had horrible talent when Hal Mumme and Mike Leach were there. And they won 9 games at one point. So, no, I think that's oversimplistic just to say being cute that you get in the SEC.
Exactly. And Fulmer said that. And I say, I push back. I say, if you're at Georgia or Alabama, you don't need to be creative. It's not cute, it's creative. If you're at Georgia or Alabama, you don't need to be creative, because you can fall out of bed and land 5-star recruits in your backyard. And so you can just simplify the offense and the defense and do well. I think Tennessee is a school where you got to be a little creative nowadays. Fulmer made that hire like it was 1995, and Tennessee was the only school in the SEC with a giant recruiting budget and a 100,000-seat stadium. That's not the case anymore in the SEC, and you can't win. Like Fulmer tried to replicate the Kirby Smart hire with Jeremy Pruitt, and that part's very clear. And I think, you can. it was an unfair gig to call it cute or gimmicky. It was creative. And creative, you can still win being creative. And so, I mean, Urban Meyer won 2 national championships with a creative offense. At the time, it was creative. Steve Spurrier had a creative offense in the 90s and absolutely obliterated the SEC. So I thought that was, I also thought that was a low blow when Fulmer said that.
Yeah, I would rank Steve Spurrier's offense right up there in cuteness, if that's the word we're using, with Mike Leach, and it was pretty darn good. Won 2 SEC titles and a national championship. Probably should have won another one. Probably would have won another one had he stayed a little bit longer. That's the Down and Dirty at 30, and it's probably brought to you by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. That's where you have to go to sign up for over 40 years of passionate, intense knowledge about the real estate market in Knoxville. Andy Mason will take care of you. Andy Mason is absolutely fantastic. Don't make a mistake that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So we'll go to the message board from time to time. What do you think? Smoky Mountain Red said Fulmer was a horrible AD. Well, I mean, in retrospect, you would certainly have to disagree. You'd certainly have to agree with that. I can't disagree because I thought so as soon as the announcement was made. I got a call about 3 days before when he was the what was he, Caleb? Just the counselor, the
Special
advisor?
assistant to the AD. It was such a, what do you call it? Like one, it was a promotional role. I forget. I don't know what the name. It was to give him an official title.
Just transparent is what it was.
Yes, exactly.
And I had somebody call me the day he got that. That was on a Tuesday. They said he'll be AD by Friday, and I said, "No way! Not even he can pull those strings." He was. So I could go ahead, Caleb. You were going.
I was just going to say, and for me, it was that people talk about how bad it was in hindsight, but John Curry brought all of that on himself because he totally mismanaged that coaching search. Mike Leach should have been like second on his list, not like 6th or 7th, the way it was. I mean, it's like they had a deck of, it's like if you rank the coaches on a deck of cards and they just shuffled them all around randomly because they had Dave Doran higher on their list than Mike Leach, which, what? And so I think that, this was when I criticized the move of making Fulmer AD, that's not a defense of John Curry. He deserves no defense whatsoever for how he handled that situation.
No, but I think there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, including one that's on Monday Night Football every night. So I don't think he had the job that he thought he was getting. I don't think he had ultimate say. I don't think he had even most of the say in some situations. Zool Beer Company, we're excited that we're going to be down there. We're going to do a live event. We're looking forward to that. Zool Beer Company, xulbeer.com, is your home for the absolute best beer in Knoxville and beyond. Worldwide award-winning craft beer in a great space downtown that you can park and have a good time. And it's easy to park downtown. You don't say that a lot. Zool Beer Company. All right, so guys, I've seen the push-ups, and like I said, I was on vacation. So if I'm a little bit behind the curve, I apologize. But I've seen the pictures of Nico doing push-ups. Tennessee's 5-star quarterback is on campus, Nico Iamaleava, and he seems to be everything that Tennessee fans could want for now. So I want to ask you this question because I was just on the flight back from being out of town, and I'll put this on my Twitter page. We can make it today's tough question if Amanda approves. But I just put it simply this. What are your immediate expectations of Nico? So I'd start the opener. I'd start later in 2024. And that should be just learn in the first year. So it would be start later in 2023. My apologies. So let's just go ahead and reset this. How about that, Amanda? I shouldn't be doing poll questions without you. Absolutely not.
Okay.
But do you see the direction I'm going here?
Yeah. So I would say, what are your expectations of Nico? And then we could say immediately starts, or, starts in 2024, I guess, or starts midway 2023. I don't like the video of him doing the push-ups, though.
Why?
I don't, because I think it's kind of a humiliating thing that you have this quarterback in here, and he's rumored to have a huge NIL deal, and the first thing you do is, oh, Nico's here and he stepped on the tee, let me video him doing push-ups. Like, I feel like this, I don't know, I mean, it's just me, but I feel like if I'm Nico, I'm like, I mean, I don't mind doing the push-ups. Did you have to blast it everywhere?
I don't know if that was UT that blasted it. Perhaps he blasted it to be viewed as one of the team.
I don't think it was him. I think it was a coach.
I don't have a problem with the push-ups if that's part of the initiation. I think it's probably good for him to do that.
That's fine. Just don't blast it all over social media and like embarrass the kid.
Had good form, elbows in. I was pretty impressed. Push from the chest. Caleb, your thoughts on Nico doing push-ups?
Yeah, I didn't mind it as much. I mean, I got to be honest with you guys. This seemed like a dig at Jeremy Banks more than anything else, because we know about those rumors of him not doing the push-ups.
That's what I thought of, to be real.
Yeah, it seemed like a massive dig at Jeremy Banks, and it basically being like, this guy's not going to cost us a shot at the college football playoff. And
so Smoky Mountain Red said have him do more leg presses instead. That's true. The guy does still look light. Daniel agrees with Caleb. Daniel says, I think it breaks through the idea that he's above certain things just because he's that guy. Yeah, and he was smiling, and he did it. How many push-ups do you think that he could do on demand? Like if he got $1,000 a push-up?
I'd say 50, because I mean, I think he could go as long as he wanted to, because he's got nothing pushing up. Like he's it's not like he has. I know he doesn't have a lot of muscle, but he also doesn't have a lot of mass. So it's not like he's pushing up a lot.
Now hit that like button, and that way we can be a part of your day-to-day. We're here at 8:30 Eastern each and every day with Caleb Calhoun and Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. I didn't have a problem with the push-ups because he was smiling and it was a good thing. But we have seen some of these, if there's a hazing thing, we have seen them go awry where it could start a fit. And we have seen this locker room go awry as we did before South Carolina. So, yeah, I think you just want him brought in. So what's our today's tough question? I'll go ahead and play the element and tell you who it's brought to today. Today's tough question is brought to you by our friends at Guardian Investments. I'll tell you more. Today's tough question is now.
We do our research. Have you done your research?
We're working like heck.
Today's tough question. What's the real debate?
You sipping my Soupe Guadalupe?
Exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker and Amanda LaFratta.
You drinking my sake, Kimosabi?
Oh my God.
In a world where knowledge is power, education is the battery that makes it run. That's why at Guardian Investment Groups, they make sure that they are able to tell you where your money is going and why. That's a financial strategy, not just do this, do that with your money. They are that awesome. So Guardian Financial Investment Group, and all you have to do is go to GIAplantoday.com, GIAplantoday.com. And with all this video conferencing we have, which you see right here, that means that GIAplantoday.com can hook you up, and you don't even have to be in the same town. They're all over down in Florida and Tennessee, and they'll take care of you. So, Amanda, how are we phrasing this, since I did a very poor job yesterday on the flying?
All right. So I said today's tough question. What are your expectations of Nico? Your first choice is that he plays in the Orange Bowl. Second is that he starts the 2023 season. Third is starts halfway through the 23 season. And the fourth is he sits until 2024.
Okay, so I'm a recruiting guy, right? I covered it a number of years. I'm supposed to sit back and tell you how 50% of the recruits will flame out. And if you go back and look at it statistically, that's it. Any school, 50% tend to flame out, 50% tend to be good. Very few have immediate impacts, usually about 4 to 6. I'm going to tell you, I think he starts day one of the 2023 season. And here's why I think that, for a couple of different reasons. Travis said he sits till 2024 unless emergency, but here's why I think that he will start the 2023 season. And can you guys give me a little bit of leeway on this? So, like, if they run Joe Milton out there, injuries aside from this entire discussion, but if they run Joe Milton out there and they don't like what they got and he's starting by week 2 or week 3, that kind of counts. Can I get that much wiggle? Just a little. You're not giving me that wiggle?
You would be the halfway through then.
Okay. So if I have to choose, I will say starts at the beginning of the season. And here's why, Caleb. You got a guy in Joe Milton that got ready in the offseason. He didn't prove to be ready. You get a guy in this guy named Hendon Hooker, who had a pretty good year, if you didn't hear. He basically had an offseason as, air quotes, the starter. I don't think this offense is that complicated. I think that it's a simple read on the safety. I think there's every reason that Nico Iamaleava can be ready by the opener, or I'm going to hedge a little bit, by at least September. I think that's very possible and very doable, especially with the fact that he's on campus right now. Your thoughts?
So before I give my thoughts, should we not have an option of never starts? I'm just saying, should we not throw out the possibility that he never ends up starting at Tennessee?
Could he be a total bust? Yeah, I mean that's a possibility.
So I don't think that's going to happen. I will say, I'm sorry.
I already sent it, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I don't think anybody would vote that anyway. I mean,
yeah, no, that's true.
Nobody's going to vote that.
So, Amanda and I talked about this last week. I would say I think he probably should start in 2023. But, Dave, I know we debated it before because you talk about the difference between practice players and in-game players, and I get that. I don't see that as an excuse for how Heupel decided to start Milton over Hendon Hooker last year. I think Josh Heupel has a personal bias to Joe Milton. I do. Very similar to how the coaches in 2005 had a bias to Eric Ames when Rick Carlson was clearly the better quarterback. I think Josh Heupel has a personal affinity for Milton. Remember, he recruited Milton when he was offensive coordinator at Missouri. Then Milton was the first guy he signed as a transfer when he was at Tennessee. Started Milton. These accuracy issues, I'm sorry, I refuse to believe that you can't see those in practice. And so I think Heupel has a bias to Milton, and I think that's going to say
why.
I don't know. I think because he's been recruiting him for so long. Heupel's been recruiting Milton since 2016. So
are you asking why he has a bias towards him, or like why would he have a bias towards him? Like, what are the reasons, or why does Caleb think he has a bias towards him?
Why does he have a bias? Why does Caleb think he has a bias towards him? I thought the quickest answer would just be the guy looks like he was, carved from gods to be a quarterback. Physically, I thought that's where you might go. But why do you think he has an affinity for Milton?
Well, yeah, I think that's part of it. I think he's been recruiting Milton for so long, again, since 2016. I think we know Josh Heupel's first breakout quarterback as a coordinator was Drew Lock, where Drew Lock and Milton share similarities. They both have gigantic arms. And so I think Heupel prefers Hendon Hooker is not really the type of quarterback Heupel seems to prefer usually. It seems like he usually prefers the quarterback with a huge cannon for an arm, accurate or not. But Milton is so inaccurate. But I think Josh Heupel keeps looking past that, honestly. And I think to his own undoing, he's going to stick with Milton. So I'm going to say halfway through 2023. I think it's more likely Nico starts some point in 2023, but in the second half of 2023.
So are you telling me that Joe Milton essentially has to get the job and lose the job?
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
think he's saying he has it already.
I think he has it already.
Amanda, do you think that he has to lose the job, or could there be pressure from the outside to play Nico, and could he be that good where he takes the job? There's a difference between losing a job and someone taking a job. I think we'd all agree with that.
Correct. I think there is a difference between losing it and someone taking it. I mean, look at Jalen Hurts and Tua. Jalen Hurts didn't lose the job. Tua took it from him. So I could see Joe Milton, I think, is going to lose it because I think we've seen him lose it before. I think Hendon Hooker came in just like killing it. I think Joe Milton dropped the ball and you had to make a change. Now we've seen Heupel have pressure from, it looks like, the administration or outside or boosters, whatever, to make certain changes or to uphold certain suspensions, like Jalen McCullough. It seemed like Josh Heupel kind of trended that way when that happened. It wasn't really, it didn't seem like it was in Heupel's hands as to whether McCullough was able to play or not. I think that was an administration decision. I think that there's a little bit of that at Tennessee. So whether or not Joe Milton is Heupel's guy, I think he's going to try to stick with him as long as he possibly can. And I think that whether it's Nico or someone else, by halfway point of 2023, we're going to see a different quarterback under center.
I think it could be. I think it could be a situation. This would be great for Tennessee, where Joe Milton plays fine. Fine's not great. Fine's not even good. And then you have a Trevor Lawrence situation brewing on Tennessee's sideline. And that is, wow, that other guy is really, really good. Remember, Trevor Lawrence, they weren't going to wait for him. They eventually played him, and some said too late. Who did he replace there, Caleb? Who was that?
Kelly Bryant, who ended up ironically going to Missouri to play for Derek Dooley as offensive coordinator a year later.
Right. So that wasn't a case where Bryant made a huge decision or a huge mistake or had a terrible game. That probably happened this past year with DJ Ajugulande. But that didn't happen with him. It was eventually Trevor's got to play. Trevor's got to play. I think that's the way it'll go down with Nico. I think Joe Milton will be okay enough to be a middle of the pack. And I agree, he has terrible accuracy issues, but I've seen that fixed with Hendon Hooker. I don't think it's something you absolutely have to have with this offense. And I think that Tennessee will be okay with Joe Milton, but okay, he's not going to be good enough to beat Tennessee got really fortunate in the Alabama and Florida games. They were better than Florida, but they almost let a slip up happen there. They beat Alabama on a last-second field goal. They snudged over. I mean, they're going to have to be better to beat those types of teams this upcoming season, not even to mention Georgia. So I think at some point during the middle of the season, the coach is going to look around the room and say, got a better chance with this Nico kid. And I think that's what will happen. I think that's the way it'll go down. We shall see. Should be very interesting. Look at my eyes. I can see. Speaking of being able to see, it's because I got LASIK I got LASIK at Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and they're local. They want to fix your vision. They want to make sure it's fixed the right way. That's because they care, because they're local. They don't just fly in and do a surgery and head out. Back in 2 minutes, and we will visit with the one, the only Chris Landry to discuss what he sees via Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn in the future of Nico Iamaleava and his thoughts on some upcoming bowl games. Stay tuned. More after this. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Calhoun Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, We can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Vols Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ottawa. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Welcome back. So what's best case scenario for Joe Milton as you see it, Caleb?
I think he could finish out the season. I mean, I think I've told you guys, no matter what, I think next year is a transition year anyway. I don't see any top 10 finish in next year's season. So, because there are problems beyond the quarterback that Tennessee has to address next year. So I was seeing 8-4 anyway next year as kind of a cap, and 8-4, 9-3, and then I was calling for my 2024 national championship prediction. But so I think he can finish the year.
Wow, you're calling your shot for 2024?
I'm calling it right now. Yes.
It's pretty strong. You want some of that action, Amanda?
I'm taking the field.
It's kind of tough to pick that one. Hit that like button if you like the fact that Caleb Calhoun is on the record. Tennessee wins the national title in 2024. I was at a casino last week, and I was going to call you for some games I might want to play in the bowl season, call both of you. And that was a really fun casino. It had no sports book and had no craps tables.
Wow. Well, they probably don't allow sports gambling in Florida yet.
Well, and they have this major window that sits between you and the dealer.
Oh gosh!
So it's like if you try to say something, like you get 8s. They say, "Do you want to double down or split?" I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Do you want to double down or split? I think I would like to split those. I'm sorry, what did you say? I would like to split those. Couldn't get out of there fast enough. Have you ever had a really bad casino experience? Because by golly, when I go in a casino, I expect them to do everything that they possibly can to make me comfortable to give them my money. I don't want to wait for my the tonic and lime. I don't want to wait for my wife's Diet Coke. Got a decent amount of money on the table. I want to be catered to. I don't want my parking to be 5 football fields away. Am I being a diva there, Amanda? Because you're kind of agreeing with me.
No, I dated, had a relationship with someone who was like a casino, I don't know if you should call him a high roller. I don't know what you would call, but I was at the casino like every weekend. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Yes. After you go there for a certain amount of time, it's like, I don't want to see the same thing in the gift stores. Like, can we change that up, please? Can we do something different? I don't want to have to walk this far to get my Pepsi. I don't want,
You become a diva. And it's like if I walked into Amanda's house and I said, I want to give you $1,000, I would expect you to ask me, would you like to sit down? I mean, that's not asking too much. And they did the trick on me too, where you ask for a voucher. So I may be too old for both of you guys for this, but you used to ask, say, hey, can I get a food voucher? And they'd give you a voucher and you'd go have a nice restaurant because you just lost a couple $100. He did the trick to me where he walks around and he's looking for his manager. He's looking for his manager and then comes back after about, Amanda knows this, comes back after about 20 minutes and said, I'm sorry, the manager said that you hadn't qualified. You can go to guest services. Like guest services, that's where you go to get like the pen, that you can write Hard Rock in. And my wife goes to guest services, stands there in line for 30 minutes, gets nothing. I'm like, what has happened? We can't even get
Oh man, that would have never. That would not have flown in my previous relationship. There would have been. I have horror stories about the behaviors of the person that I dated. Yeah, not good.
I almost went leaving for Las Vegas when he flips the table. I didn't do that. Chris Landry joins us now of Landry Football. Chris, we're just telling casino stories, but you weren't allowed to go to any of those as the coach, correct?
Casinos, I know that certainly wouldn't have been a good thing to do. But I never was into gambling. I don't know what it is. I've got some friends. I've got a really good friend who's a PGA pro, a teaching pro, and I don't know if you know, a lot of golfers, they just love to gamble. I mean, they gamble, and he's a huge football fan, and he just is constantly, what do you think about this game? I'm like, I don't even know what the line is. I mean, I'm not even paying, it just doesn't interest me. And I don't like cards or I did nothing about it interest me. Quite frankly, I understand they give, sometimes free meals that might interest me, but if I got to gamble, you're paying for it just a different way. Right.
Yeah. They don't even do that anymore.
Oh, they don't. Yeah. Well,
there's no point. I want to ask you about Nico Yamaleva, because for those that haven't maybe listened to the program since its inception, which was way back in June, one of the things you and I talked about early is how he had improved, not only as a prospect, but just how he improved from specifically his junior year to some tape that you saw him and saw him at the Manning Academy. Correct me if I'm wrong. And just your thoughts on him in general, how he's gotten better now that he's on campus over the past year.
Well, I noticed some just from the underclassmen tape, junior tape to this past year, you could see a little improvement in some of his technique. And I think he's worked with a quarterback coach and spent a little extra time on working footwork and things like that. And I thought, he did a little bit better. That's normal, right? I mean, you should get better the more you do something, the better you get. So it's not like, a breaking news thing. I mean, it's a good thing. He's dealt with some injuries, been a little bit of a setbacks at times, but he's progressing, and I thought he did a really nice job. The guy's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of charisma, a lot of what I would call potential leadership characteristics. I think the fact that he's kind of embraced the program, the city, the university, and kind of taking the bull by the horns on helping to recruit other guys. I mean, all those things are good leadership signs. So I think, it's all positive in terms of his physical and I think intangibles.
One of the things I want to ask specifically, it just seems like the ball pops out of his hand really well. Just that arm strength. I know that's one of the things you said you wanted to see, one of the things you like to see actually in person, but what have you been able to garner from that?
Yeah, no, the ball does have a nice pop come out of the hand. It does explode, which is something you can't teach. It's not the most important thing. It's not everything, but boy, when you have it, it's a tool in your tool belt that can help you. You see that in the league. And just, when you look at the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes, the Justin Herberts, they just do things that they make some of the throws even this weekend. And you say, my goodness, there's only but about 3 or 4 guys around that could do that. So when you have and that's just when things break down and you just can create and make a play. He has that type of physical ability with an arm strength to be late or to be improvisational and still get it there in a hurry. Whereas the guys that are some of the greatest that's ever played, they don't have that, but their timing and their anticipation is so good. So, necessity is the motherhood of invention. But when you have that in your arsenal, there are things, quite frankly, some of which you really can't teach that he can do. So his arm strength is unique, no question.
So we talked about Milton and some of his issues that he's having, and also the fact that Josh Heupel seems to have a lot of, I don't know if confidence in Milton is the word, or belief. He seems to stick with his guy, Milton. And so, question for you: do you think how big of an impact do you think Nico will have at the very beginning, or do you think Josh Heupel has an affinity for Milton?
Well, speaking of arm strength, Milton is as good as they come. I mean, he's another guy, the ball explodes on him. So it's been an accuracy issue with him. I think the reason why Josh has confidence in him is because he sees him in practice. He works with them and he sees them in meetings. So a lot of what he saw in him, and I tell people all the time, I have to remind them that this is the guy that beat out Hendon Hooker prior to last season. So there was enough there in practice to say, this is the guy we're going with to start because he's performed better. That's how you earn the starting job. So they saw a lot in him. Obviously, that went differently, and Hendon Hooker has been great since the early part of last year and then, of course, this past season. I think that only time's going to tell on how much better Joe has gotten. I mean, we need to see him play more, and I'm just excited to see in the bowl game and what have you to see how he's progressed. I think there is legitimate belief that certainly from Josh that, it's not like, well, he's been here, that's who we're going to go with. There's a confidence level in him that he not only can make plays, but he can make the right decisions. And in this offense, like any offense, you've got to know it and understand it. But this is an offense that requires a lot of, repetition, a lot of seeing it, and a lot of reaction. That reaction comes with experience. When people talk about instincts, people think that's instinctive, meaning you're born with it. Well, nobody's born with it. You're maybe born with a gene of calmness or, whatever. Everything is instincts are learned. When you become really good at something, you develop an instinctual quality of seeing it and understanding. And I just think that somebody that's been in the program, they're very comfortable with him. They're going to be more comfortable with him than somebody that's just been there for a couple of weeks. Over time, could that change? Could, the play of the guy that's earned it? All those things factor in. So you never know. And people always laugh when people say, well, they should have started him, Hendon Hooker, at the beginning of last year. Well, based on what? Sometimes you make decisions, and sometimes it's the best thing is when guys don't start and they sit, and when their time comes, they're more ready than they were if they'd have started 3 games ago. You can only base it on what you have. That's practice, games, meetings, and I think with Milton, he's got more of that than really anybody else, and that's why they're more comfortable with him. Whether that's going to continue or not, obviously we don't know. We'll find that out.
Chris Landry's appearance from LandryFootball.com, and you have to go to that website to learn more about football. It's brought to you in part by Zach England. Zach's got your back. Best personal injury attorney in Chattanooga. Don't let the insurance companies do you wrong, and they'll try with their big-time lawyers. Zach can match them tit for tat. So Zach's got your back. Zach England of Best and Brock. Chris, have you ever found yourself in a position, because Caleb brought up something before we had you on, that maybe Josh Heupel just really likes Joe Milton for whatever reason. Have you ever found yourself in a position where you've kind of questioned yourself as a coach? Like maybe I'm too loyal to this guy for whatever reason. I got to know his family, whatever the case may be. Have you ever found yourself in that position where you kind of had to look at yourself and say, am I making the right call here?
Oh, sure. In fact, it's one of the things that I learned particularly when I transitioned into scouting in personnel. Having done both it's different. It's a different discipline. And one of the things I learned early on in scouting was to not get close to players. Meaning it's not that I don't like them or anything, but I don't want to have that relationship of, I want to have that cold, this guy is the best. Guys that are easier to coach, coaches tend to like them more. Guys that maybe have more potential, but they're harder to coach, it's more taxing. Anyone can relate to that. If something's easy, there we go. If it's harder to do, oh boy, this again. But that's why, sometimes it can be difficult. Again, though, I don't think he liked Joe Milton more than he likes this guy. He certainly didn't like Joe Milton more than he liked Hendon Hooker as a person. It's just the reason why coaches, as a rule, like guys that have been in the system is just what I just said. They've been in the system. They've worked with them more. The more you work with them, the more you develop a relationship. The more you've taught them, the more they learn and understand. It's like anybody running a business. If you've got a person that is your right-hand man or lady that has been in the business for a while and they know how things are done, then there's a new person that's brought in. There's a belief that person's really good or you wouldn't have hired him, but there's a learning curve that they don't know how we do that. What does that mean? And then, so it's not the innate, the mom is nicer to me or the dad's nicer to me or I like them more, or I like the kid more. That's not a factor. What's a factor is just once you're in the system, you have a belief in them that, look, they've been there, they know what to expect, and that's what Joe Milton has that others don't have at this point. It doesn't make them better, and it doesn't mean that's the way it's going to end up. But for right now, that's all you have to go on.
So, Chris, you having worked with the Oilers, I would say, were involved in the gold standard of a guy with a big arm and turning him into an NFL quarterback in Steve McNair, who had the prettiest deep ball I still to this day think I had ever seen. What are some of the things you guys had to tweak with him, and do some of those things apply to a quarterback like Joe Milton that may need to work on some of his accuracy issues? And are they and could they be similar in that way?
Well, Steve had come from an offense at Alcorn where he was never under center. It was oversimplified, meaning basically it was a shotgun, roll right or roll left. And guys, it wasn't a design route. Guys just worked to get open, and it was just very go out there and make a play. Some might call it schoolyard pickup football. So he had to really learn a system. First thing we had to do is teach him how to take a snap under center, because we were going to be an under center team. We'd run some shotgun. So what we did, first thing we did is we didn't start him, because that puts practice doesn't make perfect. It makes permanent. So if you put a guy in and he's not ready, all he's going to do is resort to what he knows and not what you're trying to teach him. And you're just ingraining bad habits. So the first thing we did is we had a veteran quarterback that we had signed, Chris Chandler, and then after him, after a year, Dave Craig. Dave was more of a true backup as we had begun to integrate Steve. So Steve got to play in the last quarter of the first season, but it's the practices one on top of another. People think practice is practice. Practice is just something people hear, and they don't realize that if you practice in every day from training camp, August, September, October, November. By the time you get to November, you've got one practice stacked up against another, stacked up against another, and another, and another, and another, and another, and another. Those things you become a little better. And then what we had to do is kind of tailor game plan a little bit more. Obviously, he was very effective out of the shotgun in short yardage and goal line as a running quarterback draw. So we did a lot of that. We moved the pocket more. So we designed things that he would be more comfortable with while trying to teach him things that are staples that any quarterback needs to learn. I think in today's game, what you're seeing is more of the athletic traits of a quarterback being utilized at high school and at college. So I think that, you can adjust a little quicker from high school to college and certainly from college to the NFL, more than in the past. Now, it depends upon your team around you, too. If you go to a bad team, in college or NFL, you're going to have a harder time having success because you don't have the support around you. Guys are not helping you to make plays, even if you got a play to be made. So I think what's going to happen with Nico is, what's really important for the team and for the locker room in general, players are smart. A quarterback has to come in and win the team. If you're like, well, you come in, you're going to start, and a lot of things are said in recruiting, usually what is said is you're going to have an opportunity to start. And you've got to win the team. And the only way you win the team is when you get in that huddle as a quarterback. I'm talking. You get in that huddle, everybody needs to buy in. And the only way they're going to buy in is if you know how to call a play, how to execute a play. If they don't believe you can do it, you can say all you want and, all this bravado. They see right through that. So it's something that has to be earned, not for just earn's sake. Once you prove that you can lead this team and the offense better than anybody else on the field, that's when they're going to follow you. So how long does it take for that? Depends on the individual. Depends on who's coaching them. Depends on who's learning, what's their learning curve, how difficult the system is, the players around him, how quickly they're able to assimilate. It's not a one-size-fit-all. It's going to take this amount of time. It will depend on all those variables. So I think which you just going to have to see how he progresses, getting in early, and then we'll see where they are. And the other thing is, as a coach, is what's going to give us our best chance to win. And so I think that's where, maybe a certain guy with experience is going to get the first start. But if he doesn't play well, then maybe you tend to go with the younger guy and say, well, we'll ride with him now.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Amanda. Excuse me.
Sorry. Coach Landry, looking at Tennessee right now, put yourself in Josh Heupel's shoes. You have a lot of decisions to make, obviously, about quarterback. Transfer portal, do you go after somebody there? Nico, Joe Milton, Taven Jackson. What would you do as a coach, just looking at outside in? What would you do as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, I mean, I would want to look at a possibility of I don't want to just go get somebody in the transfer portal. There's going to be a specific guy that I'm going to want, not just one, but it could be a type of guy, and it might be one guy, two guys, three guys, and I'd try to recruit those guys because I want to have depth. I don't want to have, in any system, but particularly in this system, to have a quarterback that underperforms or gets injured, and I've got to rush a guy that's not ready. You talking about a season that could go really bad. I mean, that could go 6-6 and look like Florida, next year for Tennessee if you don't have good quarterback play. So I'd want to have some insurance. I'd want to have a guy that that has got enough experience that I can come in and he can, with not as many reps, be able to run this offense. Okay. And so having somebody in the mix and getting Joe Milton is ready and then getting Nico, those are all things you've got to work simultaneously. Now, how much reps do you give to each? Depends upon how the players progress. So I mean, I think that there's a reason why they signed Nico. There's a reason why they believe in him. But when is he going to be ready to take over? Heck, you don't know. They don't know. It's not like, yes, come in. It's not like, go to the doctor and you take these antibiotics for 2 weeks and you're good. It doesn't work that way in coaching. It's like you come in and we're going to spend a certain amount of time with him and then he's going to be good to go. That you don't know. It's a day by day. You work him hard and he might end up being the guy day one next year. He may not even play next year. Mm-hmm. It depends upon how he performs, how he develops, how Milton plays. The guy that's going to be the best, that's going to perform the best, and that's just not just physically, but the understanding is going to win it. So to me, you want to, at this stage, you want to put enough pieces in there, and then you work them from a coaching standpoint and give them certain amount of reps in certain situations. You can, in the offseason program, there are things you can do and work. And just to me, it's not as difficult as people make it out to be because the cream rises to the top. I mean, the player that performs the best and earns it, that's the one you have the most trust in. And so it's like, it's kind of like evaluating players. People say, well, you evaluate this. A player evaluates himself, how he plays and what his skill sets are. You just got to know what to look for. And as a coach, you've got to teach them. You got to work them hard, and you got to push them. And who's going to respond to that? Sometimes younger guys, it takes them a while to get to the adjusting to the college way of coaching and learning, and got a lot of other things going on campus, and just a lot of things that kind of retards their development of getting there. And then I've had cases where a guy just comes in really, really quickly. So I think you got to put the pieces in place. You got to have options. You got to have insurance policies, so to speak, and then you got to coach them hard, and then it'll play its way out.
Chris's appearance is brought to you in part by Vassy Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it's worth the drive there in Cleveland. I don't care if you're coming from Nashville, Knoxville, or Chattanooga. Cleveland, Tennessee is the home of your industrial mowers that you need, your commercial mowers, and they're able to buy in quantity so you can save money with your business. Also, residential mowers, they have that as well. Vassy Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it's worth the drive. How many days? Because we like to sit back in the media and say, oh, they're going to announce it on Friday or the second week of camp or whenever. How many days do you typically know before you make it public that that's probably the guy?
Oh, I mean, when you announce it or when you actually know when he's the guy? Because I think it's a because I think it's again a gradual process. You begin to see this guy's a little bit better at this, but then the further you got more work to do in terms of practices, you see guys regress, you see guys come on. And so there's a point where you start to get a feel for who the guy is. It's rarely, it's not like, it's rarely okay, we're going to announce it Monday at noon, that Sunday night you're going, oh, is it A or B? B, A. It's football, and it's, you pretty much it's trending one way. So you pretty much know. Normally I think it depends on, there are different ways to when you announce it. So if you feel like the team kind of needs to know it, and I think by reps. So like if you have a feel for this is going to be the guy and it's, it's into fall practice, then you want to get the guy or whenever the situation is practice-wise, you start to basically give the guy reps because you can be the guy and pick a guy. If if you don't get the reps in practice, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to be as prepared. It's kind of like you can be smart in class, but if you don't go to the lectures and know what the topic is, you're not going to do as well on the test. So that's kind of what practice is all about. You pretty much know and you work it with reps, but sometimes what you do is when it's really close, you'll give first team reps to this one and the next day first team reps to that one, and then you see how it plays out. From that point on, when do you announce it? I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends. If you feel like the team is going to be better to know, or if you feel like you share it with the team and you don't want to share it with the media, sometimes you just announce it whenever. I never really worried about when it announced. I worried about how was the team buying into whoever it's going to be. But to me, it's never usually as big of a surprise as people think. I thought it was interesting this year that, and I thought it was unique and I thought it was good. And you can do this in college when you have the right schedule and you don't have to play a big opponent. But you see what Jim Harbaugh did this year.
Yeah.
He had two quarterbacks. I'm going to start player A in this game. I'm going to start player B in this game. Just give them both a chance. It was close enough. I think in today's world, the way I did it might be a little bit different because today, to answer your question, you might delay the announcement because if you've got a guy that you really like, but he's not going to win the job, the sooner you announce it, the greater the chance that he might have to say, you know what, I'm going somewhere else. And you don't want guys to leave and transfer if they've got time to do it. And then all of a sudden you turn around and, 2 games into it, you got an injury. Well, at Michigan, just an example, their guy is left now, the backup, but imagine, if they had to go through a situation where there was an injury, a significant injury, and then you don't have your backup. That's what coaches fear today more than ever.
Chris, great job as always. We will talk to you soon. LandryFootball.com. And we'll talk to you before Christmas. I want to make sure. But happy holidays, and we'll talk to you later in the week.
You guys did the same. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, buddy.
Have a good one, Chris.
LandryFootball.com. Carson posting. Let me go back to this one. Carson saying sophomore year, 2 years from now, he leads us to a natty with other prices. Hype has been around him. Recruiting has been great.
Carson, me and you, I got you, bro. We're one and the same on that. Natty.
Caleb is in. That seems pretty lofty to me, Amanda.
Yeah, just a little. I mean, just a little bit. You still have, Saban. Saban's still there. Kirby Smart's still there. The talent levels in Alabama and Georgia are still there. That's lofty. I'm not saying it won't. I'm not saying it won't happen.
Well,
I'm just saying
you're being that girl. I'm being that guy, but for kind of a different reason. I think that Tennessee could have easily slipped up and lost to Pitt. They could have easily slipped up and lost to Alabama. It's not like they went through the season and rolled everybody. I'm being that guy in that regard, and that those aren't guaranteed wins just because you want them in 2022.
They don't play a Pitt in 2024 because the Oklahoma game was nixed, and they're not going to get a Power 5 non-conference opponent.
And that will hurt you. That will hurt you, though.
They're playing they're still going to get the love of playing in the SEC. So, yes, Saban, Kirby, Dabo, Toba. We need that meme, where they have the guy like is holding the cigarettes and is like just naming all the things. Oh crap, I forget that. They do it with that.
Balls by 50 thing. I've gotten to the point where I'm a little bit over the balls by 50. Is anybody else over that? It's just a saying that shows up on social media all the time.
I mean, I'm a little. I think everyone should have been over it when Vols almost lost by 50 to South Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's when you let it go.
Guys, Tennessee we keep forgetting how outmanned talent-wise Tennessee was this year. They were not.
I'm not forgetting it. I'm just saying when you get beat down like that, you let that go.
Oh, I get it. I'm just saying that, yes, Tennessee barely got by Pitt. They didn't really barely get by Florida. They controlled that game for most of the time. They still are severely undermanned in a lot of positions talent-wise. So they got by. I mean, they got by with how people just out-coaching people half the time.
I will tell you right now what I hate. and it's not going to change, is VFL. That hashtag VFL. And the reason I hate that is because Derek Dooley brought that up.
I knew it. I knew that's why. It's your bias against Dooley.
There's no bias. It's just he's a buffoon. and he had the big sign. Did you see this, Amanda? Google this. Opportunity is, it was supposed to be now and here. It's on the locker room going in. So instead, put those words together in the same font. What does it look like? Opportunity is nowhere.
Yes.
Will you Google that one? That's a classic. And I went up to him. I said, Derek, I don't understand what that means. It says opportunity is nowhere. And then he went on this long spiel about it depends how you look at it, and it's how you view things. I'm like, I'm viewing things in English. I don't know what you're viewing things in, but this is opportunity is nowhere is exactly what that said. And he came up with VFL.
This is the guy who referred to his own team as the Germans in D-Day. Like, who wants to be the Germans ever? And so,
no, he was almost as bad as Kanye on that stuff.
Oh my God, y'all are gone off the rails.
Yeah, Big Orange Phillies is in North Knoxville. They are family friendly. They are fantastic. Big Orange Phillies has darts. It has billiards. It has everything. If the game's not that exciting, but they've got all the games, so you can find one you'll certainly like. It's on Maynardville Pike, close to Maynardville. It's also close to Halls. It's close to Powell. So stop by Big Orange Phillies. You will love it. And family friendly. I say that again. Smoky Mountain Red said the presser where he was looking through the binoculars was hilarious. All of his stupid sayings, and I'm not taking credit. I'm almost taking blame. But all of his stupid rants were prompted by a question by me. And I'm not happy about it. I'm not bragging, but I brought out the worst in that man.
It sounds like you might be bragging a bit.
No, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not in a press conference. No, you don't want to be the Caleb, you know that. You don't want to be the center of attention.
No, I feel you. I don't know, though. Like, yep, there it is. There it is. Opportunity is nowhere.
Nowhere. You tell me that how that says now and here, Amanda. You're impartial here.
There's no and in there.
No.
That's literally just says opportunity is nowhere. That's not even.
It was into architecture. That's the funny part.
That's not even being like, that's not. You're not being pessimistic by reading that. That's what it says. It's all one word, too.
Yes.
If you're listening on our audio channels, we encourage you to listen on YouTube as well. We're on, and they've got a neat little app. You can listen to us, watch us, and see some of our antics. We're on 8:30 to 10 each and every day. And JL saying that South Carolina game was hardly 50, though it felt that way. Still, though, I'm dropping the Vols by 50 after that. After that game, I'm moving on. I'm not moving on from City Heating and Air Conditioning. Looking forward to meeting with them tomorrow. cityheatandair.com. And man, I tell you what, integrity matters, because if they show up to service your unit, they're not just going to try to sell you another one for funsies. Nope, they're going to do what needs to be taken care of, and those regular service calls will help you fend off those big unit repairs. City Heating and Air Conditioning, they are absolutely phenomenal. Back in 2 minutes with Amanda, Caleb, I'm Dave.
Has risen to the highest level in over 40 years, according to the April 2022 U.S. inflation calculator. Will your investments provide you the income you need in retirement? Are you losing purchasing power of your savings due to inflation? Simply stated, if the cost of goods and services are 8% higher and you're only earning 4% in your investments, that money buys you less of what you need. Right now is the time to act. Call Guardian Investment Advisors today.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli South subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus the complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Putting things in perspective, exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
You're so old. When you were a kid, rainbows were black and white.
And Amanda LaFratta.
New kids on the block just called. They wanted you as a backup dancer.
This day in sports history is brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. I can see. I was in the ocean. I was in the pool. Didn't have to worry about contacts. Why? Because I got the LASIK surgery. Also fantastic for cataracts. If you've got somebody elderly in your family circle you need to take care of, you need to send them to Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. All right. So this day in sports history, kind of a big one. December the 19th, 1961, Chattanooga native and football legend Reggie White was born. Reggie White was recognized as a member of the NFL 100 all-time team. At that time of White's NFL retirement, he led the NFL with 198 all-time sacks, and he held the all-time sacks leader in professional football with 221.5 sacks. He had 9 consecutive seasons with at least 10 sacks, which remains an NFL record. He earned All-Pro honors for 13 of his 15 seasons, including 8 as a first-team selection. So, Amanda, I know that you're a huge Green Bay Packers fan because of your husband. So, no, she holds true to her fandom. Let me start with you. Your thoughts on Reggie White, because he's got a couple of years on you, and I'll share mine, and Caleb, get your thoughts as well.
Every time I think of Reggie White, I just think of how sad the ending was, I guess, for him. And it was sleep apnea, wasn't it?
Yes.
And how terrible that, I mean, just fantastic football player, don't get me wrong. But of course, me being, female, I think of how sad and how tragic his death was and how way too soon he left. But he made a huge impact on football in general. Probably one of the greatest to ever play the game.
Agreed. Caleb, I've always found it very interesting that Tennessee had 2 of the most dominant athletes on the defensive line ever. And a little history lesson, which I'm sure you know, Doug Atkins literally jumped over at 260 pounds, jumped over offensive line. I mean, it was bizarre. He was a freak of nature before he was a Bo Jackson type, athletic speed, size, speed ratio, all that. Reggie White was a little bit different. I don't know if he was that explosive, but man, he was pretty darn explosive when he'd use that right arm. And to be able to get to the quarterback just using a right arm shiver cross was just, nobody else did that. So I've always found it interesting that 2 of Tennessee's very best players were innovators because they were so innately gifted. And I think those 2 guys were.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I wrote this a few years ago. I was tracking like former Vols at different positions in the NFL, and I know Tennessee is called wide receiver U. this past decade, they became punter U. I don't know if that was a joke of a thing, but they really were punter U with the Colquitt brothers. Colquitt brothers, and Michael Pilardi. But honestly, there's a strong case for them as defensive end U or defensive line U in general. I mean, because you're right, Reggie White and Doug Atkins are two of the most dominant, but there's another a line of Pro Bowlers. Leonard Little was a Pro Bowler in the NFL. Sean Ellis was a Pro Bowler. Underrated player who played with Doug Atkins, funny enough, or played right after Doug Atkins. I think a guy named Darius McCord played for the Detroit Lions in the 50s and the 60s. 3-time Pro Bowler. You got Chuck Smith, who had a 9-year career in the NFL. Steve DeLong won the Outland Trophy. Robert Ayers. I mean, that doesn't even get started with the interior, which I still say it's mind-boggling to think that John Henderson and Albert Hainsworth were teammates together at defensive tackle in 2001. And that, whatever your thoughts are on Albert Hainsworth, and look, I don't really have that many positive thoughts of Albert Hainsworth, if I'm going to be honest with you, but God, he was a freak of nature athletically.
No, I can remember a coach coming up to me, and this was before maybe a sophomore year. It may have been freshman year. Maybe it was. And I thought, so do you think that Albert Hainsworth can be a good complement to John Henderson? And he goes, the way he stings the ball or stings the offense when the ball snapped, said he can be better. Right then, I was like, whoa. John Henderson was an All-American at the time.
Outland Trophy winner.
Yeah, coming into that season. I was like, he can be better. And he goes, yeah, you watch. I was like, oh, it's kind of true. He just had that special sting. He's one of those defensive linemen that I could imagine kind of like a Zion Williamson could probably 360 dunk it. Where John Henderson may be a better all-around guy, especially against the run. But Albert Hainsworth was one of those guys. I'll give you a bit of trivia. How about this? So speaking of Johns, what Alabama player is widely considered one of, if not the best, offensive lineman, and this has a tie to Tennessee?
Hannah.
Yep, that's exactly right. Do you know where he's from?
I'm assuming Tennessee.
He's from Chattanooga. Isn't it weird that John Hannah and Reggie White, though they didn't play at the same time, grew up arguably the best defensive and offensive lineman in the history of football, grew up within, it's like 8 blocks of each other. Isn't that strange?
Well, that southern border of Tennessee right there that's always been fertile recruiting ground for Alabama and Tennessee. I think Fulmer's from around there and said that he seriously considered going to Alabama back in the 60s. It was between Alabama and Tennessee. So yeah, it's an interesting kind of that little slither. As a matter of fact, it's Winchester, right, Dave? Where like Fulmer and Johnny Majors are both from, like that county right there, right?
Oh, Fulmer's from Winchester. Johnny Majors had a lot of strong thoughts on Winchester and the residents that came from there, and he is from another area that's right over the hill.
Oh, okay.
So that feud started way like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of
ingrained.
We spoke about great and Mike Leach being a great interview. Johnny Majors was the original, probably best. I wish I could have been a reporter when Johnny Majors was coaching in the SEC. Like, he's a guy who would have answered any question you asked him.
Yeah. And it was completely different back then. They'd go on that Skyriders tour instead of media days like Amanda and I went to. So they'd hop on a plane and they'd go from school to school, which they're getting ready to do an SEC story short on that, which I'm really excited about. And afterwards, after they'd cover practice, what would you do? Can you imagine this? Well, you'd go have a couple drinks with the coach, kick it with him.
That'd be fun.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, that'd be great. And I know Johnny Majors, I think, liked to drink, didn't he? So.
He did. And I was told by some of the older guys that Paul Bear Bryant was totally different than what you thought he would be, and that all of them would just sit around and have a couple pops with you at night, have some whiskey with you. And all the Skyriders, they would do it every night. but the coaches would just do it the one night they were there. So by the end of it, all the Skyriders were just like feel like death, and because it's been 12 straight nights, they fly in, watch a practice, drink. My favorite story of all time from any one of the Skyriders, and I won't out him, is this one. They said they had this party for the Skyriders. One of the this guy comes in who they didn't know and passed out in the tub. He goes, I got to get some cold water, and it was like 1 a.m. And so they get to the airfield the next day to take off at 6 o'clock, and the guy they didn't know shows up, and he's in his captain suit, and he's the captain.
Glad he slept that off.
He's the captain of the plane.
I'm thinking of the Denzel movie Flight.
Yeah, that slept in a wet shower or slept in a cold shower the night before he was supposed to take off at 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
They don't teach you that in flight school, but maybe they should, because he handled it and they were safe. All right, so how much stuff did you give away while I was gone, Amanda? A lot of stuff on...
No, we didn't do it.
Okay, well, we're doing it now. Message board bingo. Here's the way it works. Amanda will ask the question of which message board was this posted on. So she'll read the message board post. It's usually crazy. And then if you can beat Caleb to the final answer, then you'll win one of a couple of things. We've got a Craft Treats prize pack. We've got a Owl's Nest barbecue prize pack. We've got good stuff. So you just need to be on there posting before Caleb comes to his final answer, because Caleb is way better than me at this. So there you go. It is message board bingo. It is a tradition unlike any other. 420, Bob.
I just took a melatonin at 8:37 p.m. on a Saturday night. This is a nightmare. This is the plot against our basketball team. Our coach decided to ruin us from within because he was mad that Trump took our state in 2016 by such a large margin.
Wow, Caleb knows politics too. Don't spit it out. Let's see the message board. Does anybody have that one again? Go ahead and read it again, because that was a lot to ingest.
Okay. I just took a melatonin at 8:37 p.m. on a Saturday night. This is a nightmare. This is the plot against our basketball team. Our coach decided to ruin us from within because he was mad that Trump took our state in 2016 by such a large margin.
What do you got, Caleb?
What?
This is why I enjoy reading these things.
My thing is, if Trump took the state by a large margin in 2016 or 2020, then he would have taken the other state. He would have taken that state by a large. You would have known he was going to take that state by a large margin. So you would have been shocked by it.
Gene says LSU.
No.
Is it SEC?
Yes.
I'll go Kentucky.
Yes, it's Kentucky.
I got Kentucky.
Impressive. Okay.
Brandon also got Kentucky.
Who else? Brandon. I think I got it before him, though.
Kentucky's been reliably red ever since John Calipari has been there. So I don't think he would overnight sabotage Kentucky. And if he had a problem with Kentucky being red, he wouldn't be at Kentucky.
You talk about a guy who's gotten a lot of play out of being the president. Seems like Donald Trump has his own nightly show. Or at least
he did have a nightly show for 10 years.
You're fired. Vols Automotive Group is right there on Calhoun. Vols Automotive Group is your home for trust and your home for integrity. And they appreciate your business, and they've got a great service department if you need your car worked on. They also have a fantastic selection of cars that you're not going to find anywhere else, because Mr. Vols works very hard to get the best cars, the auctions that he knows that you'll want to drive, and he knows that are good investments for your family. All right, Caleb, what do you make of this basketball team?
I don't think there's much to be upset about losing to Arizona on Saturday night. It's funny, Jairo and I were texting yesterday about Uros Plavsic because Rick Barnes got mad at him. because he does throw a few shots. But Dave, I think you agree. Doesn't every championship basketball team need that one player who just does a little bit? The player that Amanda would never give the Heisman to because of their low character. Has there ever been a basketball team win a championship without that one player to do without the Dennis Rodman, the Draymond Green, the Ron Artest,
I
Bill Laimbeer?
seem to remember a lot of hard fouls coming from Charles Hathaway.
I forgot about him. That's right.
Yeah, he seemed to be the guy that was really almost behind the game. He was just a big guy that was a post guy, where normally those guys shoot 30 3-pointers a game.
Right.
But he was kind of that guy. I'm trying to think of some other examples. Oh my gosh, who was the really tall 7-footer white guy from Carnes? Oh man, Doug Roth. I thought he had a little bit of an enforcer mentality. Yeah, I think you want one of those guys to let the Slays be Slay, who will join us on Wednesday, to let the Tony Harrises hit the bottom of the backboard when they want to. Is that happens?
You need one guy who's going to maybe throw a shot. Maybe, Kendrick Perkins talked about this in the NBA. He said, look, when you get to the NBA and you're a post player, there's a guy that's going to throw punches at you, and they want to see if you're going to fight back or not. And, that's kind of the way, you might get a technical here or there, but you kind of need you kind of need to let people know that this is where you stand. This is who you are.
Okay, so what I want to do right now is I want to set this up for tomorrow. What's your favorite Tennessee tough guy? Now, obviously, news could break. Unfortunately, we saw that type of news last week, and we could completely change the way we're going. But as for now, what's your favorite Tennessee tough guy? Okay,
For basketball,
any sport.
Favorite Tennessee tough guy for any sport. I might need a night to think about that and come back tomorrow with you on that.
I've got mine. Amanda,
I've got mine.
You've got yours?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mine starts, my first name starts with an A for me. Is that yours?
First name starts with a T.
Okay, I like where we're going. 8:30 tomorrow, we will join you. Who is Tennessee's toughest guy? There's got to be a better way we can phrase that. We'll do that. Off the Hook Sports, especially want to thank Caleb Calhoun and Caleb Gyro for printing a ton of copy while I was out and about celebrating the anniversary. So that was awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Amanda, for keeping everything straight on the YouTube channel. I certainly appreciate it. Can't tell you how much you guys mean to us and what we're doing. And thank you. Thank you very much. Brandon, go ahead and email me. I don't think you got it in before me, but I'm going to try to hook you up. And Kentucky basketball fans are the worst. Have a fantastic day, everyone. That's just a fact. It's a fact. I don't know if I follow the wrong people, but I could hear Kentucky basketball fans complaining after a 30-point win over Villanova.
They doxed a referee about 4 years ago. And not
Over Ohio State.
I'm sorry?
Over Ohio State.
It's close second. Ohio State football close second.
I'm actually still going to go Penn State football because I covered the Joe Paterno scandal at a local area near Pennsylvania, and the way Penn State football fans defended him, after everything that happened, it was.
Are you talking about Elon Musk doxing? Because that was actually an accurate thing, and that was BS.
Not everybody he suspended was doxing. No, was not. But Kentucky fans did dox an official a few years ago.
What does dox mean?
Give real-time location of someone's.
Direct address and coordinates.
That's not cool. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Amanda's Docs coming up next. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook.